Hey, you guys. How's it going? Happy New Year. Happy Sunday. Happy January. Happy birthday to my nephew who turns 20 today. A member of the Air Force. Proud aunt that I am. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my members only live stream. We do these once a month for all the new members that are here. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. This is a members only live stream for I've Got 5 on it and higher. However, I have opened up the live stream tonight for a bit so non-members can see what we do here and all the fun that we have so they can join too. If you'd like to join, if you are not a member yet, you can click the join button below this video or on my channel. And if you want to be part of the live streams every month, then you just got to be part of the I've Got 5 on it level. So hello to everyone and happy new year. Oh my goodness. Hello to everyone. Hello to everyone in the chat. Vzak, email away. I see your message. Go ahead, email me. I'd like to see what you got going on. It's members only. Well, the live streams are for members of the I've Got 5 on it level and higher, but tonight I'm opening it up to everyone for a bit. Hello, Matt. So we can see so non-members get a chance to see what the monthly live stream is like, and so they can find out what we got going on this year, because tonight I'm going to be giving you guys kind of a preview of what I got planned for members this year in 2026, and I want to have more people join the channel. So I wanted to open it up and let y'all see what we got going on. So, hello, Jessica. What up, Lisa, Matt, Solano, hello, Kitaya80, Dale, hello, Eclectic Deb, Nightfall, hello. Lisa has a new mate. Well, congratulations. I hope you found some love. Hello, Matt. Hello, Nikki. We got a new member, C. Sandoval 934. Welcome to the channel. Thank you so very much. So, guys, yes, treats for the new year, sneak previews of coming attractions. So as far as the main channel goes, like, I'm going to continue to do the videos that you've seen for the first 2 years of this channel. I'm going to continue to make list videos, my favorite things, remind you of things, forgotten things, and all the video kind of types that I've been doing. But I'm also going to start doing more to make more videos and post more than once every week or 10 days. I'm going to start doing putting in the montage videos and like I did with the commercials, the commercial jingles and things like that. So some of that stuff will be in there as well. So that's what we're going to continue to do on the main channel, making videos. And my goal is to post at least once a week, if not more frequently, but we'll see how that goes. Now, for the members, I want to really dive in this year with my members into kind of the question that had me starting this channel, which is, what is Generation X? Ooh, another new member. Awesome. Hello, Jeff. Jeff Morrow too. Oh, I need to get some applause out for both of the new members. Yay, Jeff. And then, hold on. I'll get there. Dang it. I'm so slow. More applause. Applause for C. Sandoval 934. Yay. Okay, there we go. So I want to really dive in with my channel members this year about the question, what is Generation X? Who is part of it, the descriptions, how it came to be, all of these things. For the last few videos that I've posted, I have made it clear in my channel graphics, and I even say it sometimes, that the original definition of Generation X was 1961 to 1981. That came from William Strauss and Howe from their book Generations. And it was that way, that came out in 1991. And it was that way for decades, 1961 to 1981. That was Generation X. And then in 2012, Harvard decided that they were going to classify Gen X as 1965 to 1984. And then in 2014, Pew Research decided 1965 to 1980. Now, Harvard and Pew Research made these descriptions, these declarations, based on their need to quantify data. Basically, they needed a strict mathematical definition of generations for their research purposes, which is why they cut it the way that they did. Which is why I hate it. Because Strauss and Howe, their original definition of 61 to 81 was based on collective experiences as a group of people the same age in the same country. And it was more about experiences and technology and socioeconomic status, and not just dates on a page for statistical purposes. So what we're going to do in 2026 for the members is we're going to start a book club kind of discussion, and it's going to be weekly. Now, my first thought is to have it on Tuesday nights, but I want to get my feedback from my members to see what you guys say, if Tuesday nights would be good. But for Tuesday nights this year, we are going to go into Strauss and Howe's books. Now, I wanted to tell you guys about this now, so you can have a chance if you would like to read along with me in these books this year. I've actually, full disclosure, I have read all of these books already, but it's been about 3 or 4 years, and I really want to dive into them. So I'm going to be reading them again with you guys this year. If you want to get involved and read along with me, let me get my books out here. Woo! Amazon delivery. Can you change visibility members only live stream? It's going to be changing here shortly. I have it for everybody at first. This is my first live stream for members of the new year. I want to get everybody else involved. Don't worry. All of the time I do stuff for members, it's always very exclusive. But today I'm opening up for a little bit for other people. Okay. Hello, Crouching Tyler, Hidden Swift. All right. So this is the first book that we're going to be going through, and it's called Generations, The History of America's Future, 1584 to 2069. Now, this book came out in 1991, and they were the first kind of authors to dive into what's called generational theory. It's kind of weird because our whole lives, we've just known about baby boomers, but generations kind of weren't really a thing that were described until the boomers. So this is a very recent phenomena in sociology, the kind of naming of generations, the defining of generations and why. And they were kind of the first to really dive into this in the modern age, I guess you would say. How can they possibly figure out 2069? Well, that's because according to them, there is history is cyclical. And that's kind of what this gets into. It's very interesting. Let me see if I can, let me bring up this definition of Strauss and Howe so I can help explain this, because it's better than I can do it. Sweet. Awesome to hear it, Kitaya 80. So Strauss and Howe generational theory is a psychohistorical theory which describes a recurring generation cycle in American and Western history. According to the theory, historical events are associated with recurring generational personas, which they call archetypes. Each generational persona unleashes a new era called a turning. So the turnings last about 20 to 21 years, and that means every 20 to 21 years, new social, political, and economic climates or moods exist, and they're part of a larger cycle. Okay, so the reason that they can go into 2069 is because they are going to make predictions based on historical cycles and patterns that they have picked up based on the different generations. It's very, very interesting. Members only. Can I do live chat? What do you mean? Members are the only ones that will be able to do that. I only do chats tonight, but again, everybody can watch this for at least the first half hour before I make it go private. So let me bring this up. And again, we're going to dive into this on Tuesday nights moving forward for members only. But they were the first to identify the 13th generation, or the Generation X. They called us 13ers because Generation X is the 13th American generation dating back to the country's founding. And they were, Strauss and Howe are both boomers. William Strauss, I believe, is still alive. Neil Howe, I believe, has died of cancer, I believe, or it's the other way around. We'll get into that in the Tuesday nights. But the way they set this all up is the living generations right now each have a kind of a type, an archetype. And Generation X, according to them, are what they call the nomad generation. And we are a lot like the generation that built this country in the early 20th century, the industrial generation. I'm having a really hard time explaining this, but I promise you it's very, very interesting. And once I get a little bit more organized, it'll be a lot more fun to talk about. So they start out with their idea that history is cyclical and each generation has a type. So each generation has certain traits that they develop based on the historical events that they grew up in, the things that are happening in the country, and economically and culturally, based on everybody growing up at the same time. And remember, before the internet, we had, everybody had the same media. So we all had the same newspapers, the same television stations, and we were more of a monoculture. So, but we've broken out from the monoculture in the last 20 years, but this was written in 1991. So you're already interested? Good deal. They should have called it Generation 13. I know. Well, we're going to talk about why it got the name Generation X and not 13. Because 13 was our original name, which I kind of like, to be honest with you. So Generations is the first book. So that's the first book that they wrote. Now, after they wrote this book, they wrote a companion book called 13th Gen. Abort, Retry, Ignore, Fail. Now, this is the first book about us as a generation, Generation X. They kind of take their theories from generations about us, because they talk about multiple generations in this book. So they take their theories about us from generations and they really dive into it in 13th Gen. So, okay, Solano, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm not changing anything right now. So after we get through generations, we're really going to dive into 13th generation, or 13th gen, I should say, because this really gets into describing how they came up with the idea for the 13th generation and the years that they chose and why. And it has to do with the other generations as well too, because they changed baby boomers. Or they didn't change baby boomers. Their original definition of baby boomers was 1943 to 1960, not 1946 to 64. So, anyways, I say all of this to say that all of the generational definitions that we know now that are burned into our brains, of Gen X 65 to 80, or baby boomers 46 to 64, or millennials 81 to 96, all of that, all of those numbers, those dates, have come from research firms that are trying to analyze and statistically quantify different behaviors and things based on age and different generations. But they don't take into the effect the cultural experiences. And I personally am not going to cut out somebody born in November of 1964 who was obviously a Generation Xer just because they weren't born after January 5th, 1965. So that's kind of where I'm at on this. I want to include the early 60s babies and the early 80s babies. So it goes from generations, then it goes to 13th gen. Now, after we get through that, then we're going to go to the fourth turning. Now, this book is what changed kind of my world on the whole idea of generations and cyclical historical theory. The fourth turning was, Edenway was born in St. Louis. I was born an hour south of St. Louis. I'm from the St. Louis area, south in the rural parts. But St. Louis was pretty close to me. So the fourth turning was written in 1997, okay? And based on their theories of generational cycles and different archetypes, they predicted the next 60 years in the fourth turning. And remember, this was written in 1997. So they predicted what was going to happen in the next 2 generations based on their theories. And oh my Lanta, they were spot on. Like, they predicted everything. Everything, even COVID. They predicted everything based on their theories. So yeah. So this was pretty cool. These 3 books. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, see, that's the thing. The ones that are people that are late 70s, early, like people that are in their late 70s, 80 years old, that would be, you know what, 1946? Is that 80? 80 years old? 1946. Yeah. So yeah, you cannot compare somebody born in 1946 to somebody born in 1965. Well, it's insane, right? Generations, it makes sense that generations are quantified as 20 years because, you know, historically, especially, that was kind of the not average age, but a good age between parent and child. Could be a little bit longer than that, obviously, especially now. But so it makes sense for generations to run around 20 years. But then, and this is one thing I want to get into in our discussion on our Tuesday night book clubs, is that inside those generations are even smaller cohorts. This is my theory. We're going to come up with Natalie's theory this year. So my theory is that we have a larger Generation X from 1961 to 1981. I like those years. But to account for socioeconomic differences, technological differences, differences in experience, I think that we should cut down even farther into those generations and get into things like Generation Jones, which bridges boomers to X, and Zennials, which bridges X to millennials. So that is what I've got planned for Tuesday nights in the members only section in 2026. We are going to read some generational theory books, and we're going to get super nerdy about it. So it's going to be a little bit American history, pop culture history, and then Generation X history. Woo! And the cool thing is, especially in generations, is that it tells us a lot about our parents, our grandparents, our children, based on the different generations and the archetypes. I'm really looking forward to it. I hope you guys like to nerd out with me on things like this. I find it very, very interesting. And I also find it very relevant to the discussion of kind of what is happening in today's world, and how to have a conversation about our place in it, because things have gotten so crazy compared to when we were growing up. And I'd like to have a little bit of a conversation about where we see Generation X's place in our country and in our society moving forward. The baby boomers are dying off, and it's going to start accelerating in the next 5 years. We've never had a Gen X president, but we do have Gen X business leaders. But Gen X, because of our, I guess, propensity to damn the man and go anti-establishment, we have not engaged as a generation in business and politics the way that our previous generations have. So I'm interested to hear where you guys see us moving forward, for the second half of our lives, I guess you could say. I feel like I'm about halfway through, Lord willing, and the first half has been very interesting and crazy, and I'm kind of interested to hear where you guys see us moving forward. Yes, I agree. I'm interested in debating generational divides being defined not by years, but by cultural and world events. I agree with that. And I think it's very interesting. Well, that's true. And that is another discussion to have, because Obama was born in 61. So technically he was a Gen X president based on Strauss and Howe's 61 to 81. But then you get into the generations being defined by culture and not by years. With that, if you go by culture and not by years, I would consider Obama to be a boomer, like hardcore. So these are the, and there's no right or wrong answer, right? Like it's not, but again, it's based on generational traits. And so that's why I would consider Obama to be a boomer and not a Gen Xer, even though he was born in 61. Look who's joining me. Yay! Yay! Oh, let's get some applause. Hold on. I got applause. Oh, Natalie, from a past live stream question I asked, you mentioned you had Kirk Cameron posters in your room in your youth. What other posters did you have back then? Dave could probably answer this question. Well, my room was actually covered in baseball cards.
Baseball cards and Kirk Cameron.
Baseball cards and Kirk Cameron. I'm a huge baseball fan, or I was growing up, huge Cardinal fan. And so I wallpapered my walls in baseball cards and Kirk Cameron. I also
you had a Tiffany poster, didn't you?
I did have a Tiffany and Debbie Gibson poster, but starting in '88, I was covered in New Kids on the Block posters.
Yeah, mostly New Kids. That would be. Yeah, I don't really recall anyone else. I was wondering, I was thinking maybe you had like a Ricky Schroeder poster or something. Maybe
I don't remember having a Schroeder poster, but I did. It was
a little
Kirk
earlier.
Yeah, it was Kirk and New Kids.
Kirk and New Kids. That was
and baseball players. Oh, Jessica says hello.
Joe McGrain.
Joe McGrain. Yes, yeah. Cardinals pitcher, 1987 rookie. I love that. All right, so Dave, I'm telling them what I've got planned for this year. And I'd love to have you join us when you have the time. Okay. So every Tuesday, we're going to start going through Strauss and Howe generational theory. Yes. And we're going to start with generations. And then we're going to go to 13th Gen, which is the book that was written just about Gen X. Okay. And then we're going into the fourth turning.
All right.
So.
I like it.
You like it? Yeah. It's pretty cool. The fourth turning blew my mind. Written in 97. So I'm going to go through and read some of your guys' comments from the last few minutes while I was talking, because I didn't get to read them. And while we're doing that, I'm going to show you an interview with Strauss and Howe from 1997 when they released their book for The Fourth Turning. Because apparently, just a spoiler alert, we are in a fourth turning right now.
Yes.
And a fourth turning is a major world event that kind of resets everything. And if you go back, it happens every 80 years. World War II, we're talking about the Western world, by the way. So World War II from the 1940s, then you have Civil War in the United States in the 1860s, then you have the Revolutionary War before that in the 1760s, 1770s. And then that's why this book Generations goes back so far to 1584, is because it all goes into what a turning is. And so we are in a fourth turning right now. They predicted this in their book, 1997. They predicted that the fourth turning would start around 2018 to 2020. And it would last for about 10 to 15 years. Woo! Okay. If I have a spare second, check my email. Okay. I shall check my email. Oh my gosh. Jessica, don't feel bad. You're so kind to me. Jessica's trying to get me a New Kids gift. And it wasn't working out, but now she's going hardcore. She's getting me cards, New Kids on the Block cards. I'm so excited. Remember the old school playing cards, New Kids on the Block?
No. No.
Yay! Sounds good. Thank you so much, Jessica. Book club is going to be every Tuesday night. Every Tuesday night, we are going to start with Generations. So if you want to get involved and you want to read ahead, you can get Generations off of Amazon. It's about $10. It's also available on Audible. So I actually have the audio version and the written. Anymore? Yeah. I did have a great New Year. I hope you did too.
I think I was in bed by 9:30.
Yeah, Mayor of New York went straight from boomer to millennial. You were in bed by 9:30. But we have Generation X has basically been skipped in public representation in government. We just don't get involved in elections and stuff. It went straight from, but boomers never freaking let go.
Yeah.
Boomers never let go, and they're still around.
And our generation knew they wouldn't.
Yeah, so it was like, why bother? Yeah, well, this is part of the whole, you hear the millennials and the Gen Zs being like, everybody before us had it so great and we got screwed. No, don't even start, because the boomers, talk about pulling up the ladder behind them, started with us. And we've known that because you haven't seen anybody in power from Gen X in the government.
I don't really think of anybody.
Right. There is none. You're late. Recap everything in one sentence. We're having a book club starting on Tuesday nights, and we're going to talk about the origins of Generation X. If you want to get involved, your first book is Generations by William Strauss and Neil Howe. That was a really long one run-on sentence. Yeah, freaking Pelosi's still there. What's that? Mitch, what's his name? McConnell from Kentucky.
I thought they were both like in comas.
We've literally had senators and House representatives, people die in office in the last couple of years.
Well, and there's that. Madeleine Albright's gone.
Yeah. I'm going to give you guys, I'm real quick. Not this Tuesday, a week from Tuesday. So I'm going to give everybody the week to get their books. So that would be the 13th. We're going to start on January 13th, that Tuesday night. And then we'll start meeting once a week from then on. Yep, homework assignments.
Who was the lady that was in a nursing home for over 6 months and they didn't even know, but was still putting?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Out in California.
That's the other thing, is the people that are around them that allow them to do this, and just like,
yeah.
Well, and we could talk about for our last president and the President Auto Pen. Yes, how poetic, the 13th. That's true. What a great day to start on the day for our 13th generation. All right, so let's watch Strauss and Howe when they originally released The Fourth Turning in 1997. Let me bring them up, and I'm going to look through your comments while we're watching this. Share screen. Now, again, this is C-SPAN from 1997, so the quality isn't going to be perfection.
C-SPAN quality.
Yes, and you do have AI to cheat with your homework this time around. So definitely use AI. Have conversations with Grok over this. I find it very interesting to do that sometimes. I know you're not a fan of AI, and nope. I use it as a tool, not as a substitute for my work, but I like to use it as a tool to get myself thinking about things. And
I tried to make a picture of Chuck Schumer eating his boogers once. It didn't work out. Grok wouldn't do
it. Yep, the president is a boomer, vice president is a millennial. We never had a chance. It's true. It's true. All right, let's watch a little bit of this. I'm going to read through your comments.
Well, speaking of history, we have two gentlemen on our set who have been looking at history to find some of the trends and to help us understand what might be ahead for us in this country and globally. Neil Howe and William Strauss. We'll start with Neil Howe this morning. We've always heard the phrase, history repeats itself. When people say it, are they right?
Well, we argue in our book that in many respects, history does repeat itself. We take a close look at the rhythms of American history, and in our book, we make the following big prediction that beginning about 10 years from now, America is due to enter an era of crisis, an era of political and social upheaval.
By the way, what happened from 10 years from then? The 2008 financial crisis, which some would consider the beginning of the fourth turning. Some consider 9/11 the
What year is
this is 1997 when they wrote the book.
Yeah, I would say the start of it, the start of it was 9/11.
No, yeah, well, some people theorize, and if you read the book, 9/11 will be the end of the third.
Fair.
And then
that's fair.
Yeah, and then the fourth kicks off with the 2008 financial crisis.
Will last around 20 years or so until the late 2020s.
Mind you, I'm going to rewind this real quick. This was in 1997. Listen to what this man is saying based on his theories of generations.
Close look at the rhythms of American history, and in our book we make the following big prediction that beginning about 10 years from now, America is due to enter an era of crisis, an era of political and social upheaval that will last around 20 years or so until the late 2020s. We call this era a fourth turning. And we think it's going to be a big threshold for the history of our nation. It's going to be something on par with World War II and the Great Depression, or going back the length of a human lifespan before then, the Civil War, or going back the length of another human lifespan, the American Revolution. It could be a time of tragedy or a time of great opportunity. It could, of course, bring pain and suffering, but more importantly, historically, these eras of crises, these eras of reconstruction allow us to raise our civilization up to a new level.
What causes this cycle is the aging of generations. There are 4 different kinds of generations.
Now here we get into their generational theory, and they're going to talk about how they came to these conclusions based on the different generations that are in the United States.
Yeah, whoa is an understatement.
Whoa is an understatement. I'm telling you guys, this book is insane. So we might burn through generations pretty quickly and then get to 13th gen and 4th turning as quickly as we can, because it's pretty crazy. But I want to do generations so we can get into the backgrounds of the origins.
And their archetype depends upon when in history they were born. And one very remarkable...
Rewind.
Crises, these eras of reconstruction allow us to raise our civilization up to a new level.
What causes this cycle is the aging of generations. There are 4 different kinds of generations, and their archetype depends upon when in history they were born. And one very remarkable pattern in our history, going back all the way to the beginning of modernity and Western civilization, is 5 times in a row, the boomer-like generations who were born in the immediate aftermath of one great crisis, the equivalent of World War II. These generations are raised indulgently as children. They come of age with what historians call a spiritual awakening, attacking the institutions of their elders. When they reach midlife, they become moral trumpeters. They argue about values. They have the culture wars of their centuries. And then it has happened 5 times in a row that these boomer-like...
Hold on, before we get more into this. I know, this is the first members-only live stream of the year, so I have opened it up for the first little bit here so everybody can see what we're doing, because I'm trying to get more members to join my book club.
There you go.
So this is the one and only time I'm not going to have it restricted. I have it opened up. YouTube has a new feature where I can open it up to everybody and then make it private, have like going in like later. So I know I know this is a member feature, but I'm trying to give everybody an idea what we got going on this year and to get more members into the channel. So I'm not trying to I'm not trying to devalue my members only live stream. I'm trying to get more people to join us.
Raised indulgently as children. They come of age with what historians call a spiritual awakening, attacking the institutions of their elders. When they
talking about the 4th turning, and now listen, he's talking about the boomers and how they came of age after World War II in a spiritual awakening, and they attack the institutions that their parents built. So he's talking about, and remember, he's a boomer, and this is 1997.
Reach midlife, they become moral trumpeters. They argue about values. They have the culture wars of their centuries. And then it has happened 5 times in a row that these boomer-like generations, upon entering old age, have become the stern and principled priest warriors who have pushed their society into the next great gate in history.
Is this something that only happens in the United States?
No, it happens to other countries as well, and we actually spend part of our book talking about Western Europe. We do believe it happens, and this pattern is unique to modern societies in which people can redefine phases of life and social roles in each phase of life according to the particular generation's coming of age, so that in a strictly traditional society, it's hard to have a cycle of history because each generation is repeating the prescribed roles of the generation that came before it. But in societies like the West, and in particularly in America, where we can change our institutions to fit the tastes of each batch of leaders coming through the system and each batch of parents coming through who are the heads of households and giving directions to schools, you can have a generational cycle. And I will say that many historians, obviously Toynbee, Schlesinger, you can go back all the way to Polybius, have looked at cycles and have always hypothesized that they have a generational explanation. As Schlesinger talks about his own cycle, he says the generation is the mainspring. And what we've really done in our book is to explain why it's the mainspring and how these cycles of life are related to the cycles of history. And we think it makes our book a very, very personal one for a lot of readers.
Bill Strauss and Neil Howe have collaborated on books in the past. They're currently...
Yay! New member, the Pacific 8363. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate it. See, that's why I have it open up to everybody. I'm trying to get new members, and I've gotten 3 so far. That's amazing. And this is another great question that I want to talk about on Tuesday nights. If the internet and social media is disrupting this theory,
I think it's part of it.
Or if it's part of it, if it's part of the fourth turning.
Yeah.
You know, it's what kind of a bit of a catalyst.
It is because of our information. Like think of where we would be if we didn't have it for all of the independent media and things that we know right now.
Right. That's the craziest thing. If Elon wouldn't have bought X, just think of I don't even know how I would get my information.
Something would have happened.
Something would have happened. But the censorship was so bad for so long.
I think we'd be farther down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God. I can't even imagine. Woohoo. All right. More. I find this stuff so fascinating.
One is called The Fourth Turning, and we're going to be talking about that till the top of the hour. We do welcome your participation. This is a first-time callers morning on C-SPAN, so if you're calling this morning, make it your first time to have participated, and we do welcome your calls from around the country. The numbers will be on the screen throughout the program, and we'll put up our fax lines and email addresses as well. If this is inevitable, that we run in 20-year cycles, by publishing this, what can anybody do about it? It seems like there's doom ahead in the short term, but...
Well, it's not necessarily doom. It does mean an era of crisis in which there will be a redefinition of the social order. It could bring a bad war. Yes, that's true. And in the last fourth turning, our society went out and invented the worst possible weapon and then deployed it. In the fourth turning before that, the Civil War, had Washington and Richmond had weapons like that available, they sure would have used them. What you need to think about is history as a series of seasons, and it helps a little bit, Susan, to understand what the 4 turnings actually are. The first turning is a high, and that happened from VJ Day until the Kennedy assassination. We all remember, of course, the 1950s. Historians call it the Great American High. Then we had the awakening, the consciousness revolution, around the time the boomers came of age, and Xers were children, and today's senior citizens, the GI generation, were entering old age, and the silent generation in between were entering midlife, a little bit unsure of where they stood on things. Then we had what we call the unraveling, the period that began with mourning in America in the middle 1980s, as boomers have entered midlife, as the Xers entered young adulthood, and as a new generation of specially protected children were being born.
And one of the real contrasts here is...
Did you guys catch that? The unraveling. So we had the first was the awakening, which was post World War II when the boomers were being born, and then so it was the awakening, and then there was the, I forget what comes next. There's the second turning. The first turning is the awakening. Then there's the second, which is everything's great, all is well, and then the third turning is the unraveling, which started, according to them, in the early 80s. And then it stopped. Well, of course, it's 97 here, but they made a follow-up book called The Fourth Turning is Here, which came out a couple of years ago. And they said that the fourth turning stopped around 9/11, or the third turning started around 9/11, the unraveling, and then it got into the fourth turning in the 2000s. I'm probably not making any sense. Somewhere in there. So the unraveling started during our adolescence. So we were born into a great society, a great flourishing society. But then as soon as we started growing up in our childhood and adolescence, the unraveling started.
During the American High, institutionally, America felt very muscular, very modern, very with a great sense of solidarity and direction, whereas the culture was weak and individualism was to some extent suppressed. And here in the unraveling, what we call the unraveling, our current era, it's reversed. We feel institutionally in total disarray, very pessimistic. We feel that we are greater as individuals than we are collectively. It was very much the opposite we felt before. And
it's important to think in terms of historical parallels for today's era. We feel as though we are in something like the 1920s, if you adjust for the problems and the technologies of now. as Neil says, it's a time when individualism is strong. That was true in the 20s. It's a time when the culture felt decadent. That was true in the 20s. It was a time when there was a robust economy and a speculative binge. That was true then. It was a time when third parties were popular. It's a time when people had very little and declining civic trust. And you go back to the 1850s and you can see similar kinds of patterns happening then. And you can see the same thing in the 1760s. That's why we feel as though we're about 8 to 10 years before some spark in history will trigger a substantial change and a darkening of the public mood.
Do you find that older people know this instinctively?
We actually find a lot of interest among older, particularly those we define as the GI generation.
Okay, real quick, I'm going to go back. This is from the fourth turning. This is what they wrote. The first turning is a high, an upbeat era of strengthening institutions and weakening individualism, when a new civic order implants and the old values regime decays. That's the first turning. That's the high. That came right after World War I, when the baby boomers were born, or World War II. The second turning, and that lasted from World War II to the JFK assassination. And according to this theory, then from the JFK assassination to the Reagan election was called the second turning, or an awakening, a passionate era of spiritual upheaval when the civic order comes under attack from a new values regime. So civil rights era, Watergate era, that whole thing, Woodstock. The third turning, which according to Strauss and Howe started in around 81 with Reagan and ended around 9/11, was the third turning, an unraveling, a downcast era of strengthening individualism and weakening institutions, when the old civic order decays and the new values regime implants. Then there is a fourth turning, which started in 2008. The fourth turning is a crisis, a decisive era of secular upheaval, when the values regime propels the replacement of the old civic order with a new one. So that's what we're talking about right now. Hello, B-Boy.
Those who were, at least among men, draft eligible for World War II, and who went through that war and came of age with the last crisis, so to speak. It's very important. All of the eras that Bill was just talking about were eras in which the previous hero generation, the generation which had an immensely close and cooperative relationship with public institutions, was just passing from the scene. And that's exactly the way we feel today. I mean, you remember all the Newsweek covers and Time covers we've seen recently about goodbye, farewell to the GI generation. Dole would be the last member of that generation to have made a run for the presidency. Bush, it seems almost certain, will be the last president of that generation, a generation which inhabited the White House longer than any other generation in American history, totally overshadowing the silent generation of children during the Great Depression and World War II who may never get in the White House.
Our first call for you, gentlemen, is from Estherville, Iowa. Good morning.
Morning. I was wondering if this change in cycle is going to come from the political arena or if it's going to come from the civilian arena.
Bill Strauss?
If you look at history and you see what happened in the 1920s and 1850s and 1760s as people looked ahead at the future and what they could have envisioned in that time, Susan, they could not have imagined what ultimately happened in those crises. But they could have envisioned, and some people did envision, what the triggers of those crises were. They were the issues that were being deferred.
I got an example. In the 20s, in the early 20s, you could have envisioned a great market crash. You could have even envisioned a big political reversal, a realigning election. No one could have predicted the New Deal, the A-bomb, and VJ Day, and a total redefinition of America's role in the world and the relationship of government to society.
Yeah, talk about a change. Yeah, that is up for debate. I believe, even though Obama was born in 61, I believe he was a definition of a textbook boomer. Yeah, but yeah, I don't claim him. No. But some people could call him a Gen Xer, but I think based on Strauss and Howe's theory of traits, generational traits and things, I would call him a boomer. But again, we can discuss this on Tuesday nights. This is going to be a fun year. This is going to be a fun discussion. I'm excited about it.
So, and you go back to the previous crisis. In the 1850s, you could have predicted the election of an abolitionist-leaning president. You could never have predicted Gettysburg, the most horrible war that anyone had ever been aware of in the New World. And this is our lesson. People, if you look forward to the year 2005 or 2008, that era, we can predict the kinds of things which will push us into this mood. We cannot predict how we will emerge.
Well, for example, things like road nuclear weapons, or the collapse of Social Security and Medicare, along with the rest of the mountain of federal debt, or the spreading of rich and poor and class warfare, and racial problems in America.
Or secessionist movements. We've heard a lot of press recently about that.
These are things that you can see seeds of today, and what we are warning is that these problems have a way of congealing into one large storm that becomes a great gate in history, but we don't know what the next Gettysburg or D-Day will be.
Next call's from Jacksonville, Florida. Good morning.
Hi. I was just, this is actually more or less of an observation that I was making. It seems that the cycles that you're talking about, isn't it true that you have a group of people who have worked very hard to get where they are, to amass their wealth, and then pass it on to their children? And as the children grow up, they become more of that elite society that turns to the government and starts forming more of the government institutes that we see. And then we see the rebellion like we have right now from the right and from working class people who are now banding together and wanting to become entrepreneurial in themselves.
So you see an economic cycle happening?
Yeah.
Well, it is true that generations of narcissists do not produce narcissistic children. They produce more collectivist children. And we're seeing that right now with the boomers. We have Bill Clinton arguing with broad support from his peers for school uniforms. And it is true that we are raising a generation of children today which is, we think, in history, going to resemble the generation that raised boomers. They are going to resemble today's senior citizens.
We call this the hero archetype as opposed to boomers who more embody what we call the prophet archetype. Hero archetypes are born just after a period of spiritual awakening when attitudes toward child rearing are beginning to tighten. Prophet archetypes are born just after a crisis when attitudes toward child rearing are beginning to become more indulgent.
It's the oscillation in the way children are raised that is one of the great mainsprings of history's cycles.
One thing that has not existed before in history.
Well, you just said the way children are raised are one of the springs in history's cycles. This is a big deal when they talk about Generation X because we were the generation that literally got ignored by our parents. Well, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
Well, aren't we considered the hero?
We're considered the nomad.
Oh, well, that's right.
Yeah, we're the nomads. Yeah, the heroes are the millennials. Or was it the boomers? I don't know. I got to get into the book. I forget.
Boomers aren't the heroes.
Yeah, no, boomers aren't the heroes. I got to find how they described us in here. Because they gave us each an archetype. And the archetypes are cyclical. So as the different generations fade out, like the new cycle, the new generation gets that archetype. Here we go. So a prophet generation, which is the baby boomers, a prophet generation grows up like profit, like Prophet, not like profit money. Prophet generation baby boomers grows up as an increasingly indulged post-crisis child, comes of age as the narcissistic young crusaders of an awakening, cultivate principles as moralistic midlifers, and emerges as wise elders guiding the next crisis. A nomad generation, which is Generation X, grows up as underprotected children during an awakening, comes of age as the alienated young adult of a post-awakening world, mellows into pragmatic midlife leaders during a crisis, and ages into tough post-crisis elders. I love that. I freaking love that. A hero generation, that's the millennials, grows up as increasingly protected post-awakening children, comes of age as the heroic young team workers of a crisis, demonstrate hubris as energetic midlifers, and emerge as powerful elders attacked by the next awakening. An artist generation, that's Generation Z. They grow up as overprotected children during a crisis, come of age as the sensitive young adults of a post-crisis world, break free as indecisive midlifers during an awakening, and age into empathic post-awakening elders. So that's from The Fourth Turning. How much do you love that? I know you're getting tired. We're not going to do this much longer.
No, I'm
okay.
I was just coming up to hang out for a little bit.
Okay.
What time is it?
It's almost 9 o'clock.
No, I'm
yeah.
right.
Okay.
Widespread technology.
Oh, yes, there has.
But to the
look
point
at the 1920s.
But what about the point of the internet being in
potentially? Okay, again, this is 1997. So she's going to ask a question about the internet before they even understand or know what even the internet is or what it can do to them. Okay, we're going to go back just a little bit.
Where child rearing are beginning to become more indulgent.
It's the oscillation in the way children are raised that is one of the great mainsprings of history's cycles.
One thing that has not existed before in history is widespread technology.
Oh, yes, there has.
But to the
look
point
at the 1920s.
But what about the point of the internet being in potentially everyone's household?
Look at the point of the automobile being in everyone's household in the 1920s. There have been other times when there have been major technological leaps which have redefined American self-definition. And our point is that it is the societal mindset that takes the technology and crafts it into whatever the society feels it needs at the time. Recall how in the 1950s we were fearful that computer technology would lead to Big Brother. Now we are afraid that it is cutting our society into shards. That is a reflection of the societal mood more than the technology.
This is actually a point we make in our book, is that to a lot of extent, there's a lot of technological determinism out there. People think, well, because we invent a silicon chip, that pushes our society. We say that people invent a technology, but it's a social mood which uses that technology for what we want, when we want it. And a computer is an excellent example of that.
San Anselmo, California.
Yes, it's my observation that the Gingrich type of faction kind of represents, the older generation, and, the Clinton is kind of an intermediary between that representation and the leftist tendencies of the Democratic liberal forces in society. And it's my wonder what your observations are on this.
Both Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton are excellent examples of boomer generation leadership. And I should preface that by saying, we define boomers as born between 1943 and 1960. We push back the years slightly to define them as in terms of location in history rather than in terms of their fertility rate. But both of them are obsessed with the cultural direction of this country much more than they are by institutional programmatic reform. Both Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich have said as much. We find that boomers and boomer-type generations all their lives are obsessed with values in the culture first. They think if you get that right, politics and everything else follows behind that. Very different from the GI generation, who took culture for granted and were obsessed with institution building. It's one of the contrasts between an outer-focused generation and an inner-focused generation like boomers.
I want to tell the audience a little bit about both of you before we go any farther. Neil Howe is a graduate of Yale with
we're going to have to do that on the Discord some night. I always loved syncing that up, but I like doing it. Like, they have videos on YouTube now that sync up Dark Side of the Moon with Wizard of Oz, so you don't have to do it manually, but I always enjoy doing it manually so you can try to get it the right timing. Dark Side of the Rainbow. Did that a lot in college. And it always amazed me because, it wasn't like Wizard of Oz was on VHS where they could time that up. And it's not like they used computers to do all of that, all of those sound effects and different things it's amazing. Anyways, okay, back to Strauss and Howe. I've smoked a lot of weed today. I'm on my vacation. So, basically, I'm taking some days off for the first time in over a year. But I didn't want to miss this live stream. I wanted to do a live stream with y'all. So thank you guys. For those of you that are just joining me, this is technically a members only live stream, but I'm giving a sneak preview to non-members. So you can join me this year. My plan is to dive into the origins of Generation X and Strauss and Howe theory. We're going to do a book club starting with Generations, which is right here. Boop. And then we are going to do the 13th gen, which is about Generation X. And then we're going to do the Fourth Turning. And so right now we're watching a interview from Strauss and Howe in 1997, discussing their book, The Fourth Turning, where all of their historical theories and cultural theories are they say that history is cyclical and based on the generations and the time in their life that they are contributing to society. It's super interesting. So that's what we're doing. If you would love to join me this year on Tuesday nights for this, it's only $5 for the I've Got 5 on It level. Just click the join button here on my channel.
With institution building. It's one of the contrasts between an outer focus generation and an inner focus generation like boomers.
I want to tell the audience a little bit about both of you before we go any farther. Neil Howe is a graduate of Yale with graduate degrees in history and economics. He helped draft Dick Glamm's National Thrift Plan. Is that for his last campaign?
Yes.
Has served as chief economist to the National Taxpayers Union, senior advisor to the Blackstone Group, which is what?
That's an investment bank in New York.
And senior advisor to the Concord Coalition, a group we're familiar with here in Washington. Where's your hometown?
Right now, it's here in the D.C. area. Originally, I'm from California.
What part?
The Bay Area.
And Bill Strauss, also from Northern California, has a degree from Harvard, degrees in economics, law, and public policy, and served as staff to President Ford's Clemency Board and counsel to 2 Senate subcommittees. How did the collaborative effort between the two? It's your third book together. How did it all start?
Back in the 1980s, I met Neil, and I had in the back of my mind the idea of writing a history of American generations. I had 4 small children then, and I was actually quite concerned about the mountain of debt and unfunded pension liabilities.
That is correct. Actually, I think it's Neil Howe. Or no, is it Strauss? So Strauss passed in 2007, and then Howe's still alive? Okay. Howe still continue. Okay. So Strauss passed away in 2007 from cancer.
That were accruing while I was working in the Senate. And I wanted to tell the story in terms of generational endowments because I felt that as a society we were not doing a good job. We found we had a common interest in this subject, and we decided in 1987 to begin writing our first book, Generations. And as we began that, we saw that there was this remarkable pattern of generations, that the relationship between our parents, the GI generation of Dole and Bush, and our own boomer generation had happened before, during the early part of this century, and then before that in the 1830s, and before that in the 1740s. And we consider that a remarkable story. And that's how we wrote Generations. And in Generations, we actually made a number of predictions about the 1990s, about how there would be culture wars, and how there would be the rise of a new alienated economics-focused generation like Gen X.
Oh, yeah. That's the other thing about Generations, is it does make predictions about the 90s. That'll be fun to go through. So this is what sorry, didn't mean to interrupt him right there.
Economics-focused generation like Gen X, how there would be new specially protected children. And when
economics-focused generation like Gen X. So that's what they talk about in Generations.
Interest in this subject, and we decided in 1987 to begin writing our first book, Generations. And as we began that, we saw that there was this remarkable pattern of generations, that the relationship between our parents, the GI generation of Dole and Bush, and our own boomer generation had happened before, during the early part of this century, and then before that in the 1830s, and before that in the 1740s. And we consider that a remarkable story. And that's how we wrote Generations. And in Generations, we actually made a number of predictions about the 1990s, about how there would be culture wars, and how there would be the rise of a new alienated economics-focused generation like Gen X, how there would be new specially protected children. And when that started to come to pass, we decided we wanted to write The Fourth Turning.
Whiteville, North Carolina. Good morning.
Yes, Susan, C-SPAN is great.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask them, through the years, we have...
Dave's got to go. All right, we'll see you later. He's gonna start hanging out with us more often. I'm making it a requirement to our sibling relationship. All right. Sorry, I want to hear this lady's question.
New specially protected children. And when that started to come to pass, we decided we wanted to write The Fourth Turning.
Whiteville, North Carolina. Good morning.
Yes, Susan, C-SPAN is great.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask them, through the years, we have elected these congressmen, senators, presidents to go to Washington. Don't you think we have paid them dearly, paid them to destroy our country? They've taken our money, and we're down the drain. I'd like their opinion of that. Can you believe what they've done to us?
Well, right now, the leaders we have reflect our social mood. Americans don't seem to care as much about government now, and so they're comfortable with the standoff that we see. In the fourth turning, Neil and I make the point that both political parties have some responsibility for what the problem is, and as well as some opportunity for what the solution is. Up to now, the Republicans have had a reasonably good sense of the kind of civic sacrifice we require, but they don't understand the purpose of civic authority. They keep undermining people's confidence in government, whereas the Democrats have the opposite problem. They don't have the ability, especially with this president, to ask the American people to give up something and to do something hard. In the coming era, we are going to need both public sacrifice and a resurgent civic authority.
Let me ask you, since you've tracked the cycles, go back to the AppScam years in Congress. Did that kind of Congress reflect what was going on in society at the time? Does it fit in with your generational charts?
Well, I guess you're referring to the silent generation coming of power. That actually was the last time we had a generational transition before the boomers. I should just add, these last three elections have seen a huge boomer influx into all levels of government, into Congress, the White House, all the state legislatures. This has been the time for boomers. And finally, with this last election, into the Senate, which interestingly, over the past 2 years, has always been regarded as this island of moderation and politeness, right? Precisely because it was the only part of government in which the silent generation was still presiding, while the rest was overrun by these bomb-throwing, train-wrecking boomers. The previous generational transition occurred in the early 1970s, and that was just as the Vietnam War was winding down, Watergate was all in the news, and we had the so-called Watergate babies, which were the huge influx of candidates born too late to be in World War II. And there, in a way, that was really the transition when America, in a sense, began to fragment and began to be less of a common mission toward the future, toward a commonly acknowledged future, and became much more self-doubting, other-directed, committee-run, interested in deferring and delaying and discussing, rather than that same GI generation long strides, with Kennedy and LBJ, of moving toward the future with very little reflectiveness. And
I find this stuff so interesting. Have a book chat on the 13th. Can you outline some focus? I'm going to go over the very beginning of the book. So we're going to kind of go into the introduction of kind of what it's about, and get some definitions on different things. And we're going to kind of plan out the rest. We'll go through this is a very, very long book with very, very tiny print. So I don't know if we're going to go through every page. We're going to probably just go on the stuff that's really focusing on Generation X. We'll kind of skim through the historical stuff, but I don't want to just totally gloss over it, but I really want to get to the X part of everything, into the 20th century of it all. So, but to start with generations, just the first week, we're going to go over just kind of the basics, the introduction to the book, what it's about, and some definitions of some things, and then we'll decide what we want to read going on after that. Yeah, Gen X focus would be great. Yeah, and yeah, I'm a fast reader, but I read multiple times. I go back over it, especially if something hits me, I really want to go back and kind of really dive in. I'm also going to look and see if they have any study guides to go along with these things, because I think they do. And if they do, I'm going to buy some study guides for these books to kind of help guide me as we go through it. So I've never led a book club before or anything like this, so this is going to be a new thing for me. But obviously I want to do this very Gen X focused, but Generations is very long and very detailed. I want to get into the Gen X of it all, and then I want to move forward to the 13th gen and the fourth turning, but this is a good foundation for their theory. So that's why I wanted to start with this one. I think so too. I think it's going to be awesome too. Okay.
But one thing that Neil and I are finding on our website, and by the way, we invite our viewers here to join us at www.fourthturning.com to have a discussion about some of these issues with us online. But we are finding that it is the silent generation right now, the people who are the children of the Depression and World War II, who are just coming to
point it out. Let me hear it.
A real generational consciousness. They've never elected a president. They've lost the House of Representatives. They are right now matched by boomers in the Senate. Their influence is definitely waning, and they're finally getting a sense of what their responsibilities will be as elders. And they're going to be a very different kind of elders from the way the GI senior citizens have been.
In what way?
They're not going to defend the elder lobbies as much. I think ARP had better watch out, because the silent generation will leave it a much more youth-focused, other-directed, and splintered organization than it's been.
The silent generation feels a lot more guilt about where America has gone. The GI generation of Reagan and Kennedy never felt much guilt, and felt a great sense of collective confidence about everything they did was really the way it ought to be. They really didn't, they weren't by nature a reflective generation. In fact, a lot of, oh my gosh, I should have made another kind of decision. They believed that they had earned their entitlements. This new silent generation, they don't feel that they really are entitled the same way. And I've noticed that among senior groups that I've talked to, the term senior citizen is now beginning to fall into disuse among the younger retirees, basically the silent generation.
Whereas grandparent support groups are sprouting up everywhere.
Exactly.
And if politicians just had a little bit of courage, they'd find that a great many people in their 60s would support cuts and benefits programs for seniors.
This is what the Fourth Turning's website looks like if you're one of the internet users out there. Again, it's www.fourthturning.org. .com. Thank you. Thank you. From memory, not bad. I got most of it. Seattle is next. Good morning.
Yes, I'm fascinated about this fourth turning concept. I have a quick comment and a question, though. I'm 42, and I got heavily involved in a lot of prophetic social justice types of work, although I'm not part of the 60s generation. But I've noticed in the last 15 or 20 years there's a growing sense of alienation, agnosticism, libertarianism, hedonism. I'm, perplexed by that, this lack of faith. I don't have that because of my Catholic upbringing, but how does that tie in with warrior priests and this sense of prophetic mission?
You read our book and you'll find out. And in our book, what you describe exactly characterizes a third turning America, in which individuals feel very good about their personal lives, a lot of optimism where they're going with their own families and their own kids. They feel zero confidence about their institutional life or who they are collectively. And there's a sense of exhaustion in the culture, a sense that we've run out of new answers politically and in our civic life. The warrior priest doesn't occur in the third turning. That's a fourth turning phenomenon when the boomers who were indulged as kids were in young adulthood were narcissists who became in their 50s moralizers, moralists. And we believe that the next phase in this life cycle pattern, which we've seen, and again, by lining up parallel life cycles in the past, in particular, think of Hawthorne and Emerson and Lincoln's collective life cycle of their generation. The last phase was the warrior priest that you're talking about. And those figures will come from this generation. And unlike today's silent generation of leadership, who tend to defer problems and believe in compromise and discussion, boomer leaders toward the end of their tenure of leadership will be very much inclined to exaggerate problems in order to bring things to final resolution.
Well, Lincoln's generation.
This is wild. Absolutely wild. $10 from Tunar. Thank you. I would be interested in your take on the supposed Generation Jones, which I feel like I'm part of, sandwiched between full boomers and full X. It wasn't even coined as a term until 99. Yeah, that's going to be part of this discussion, definitely, because like I was saying earlier, I think inside, because generations should be around 17 to 20 years long. And I think inside those generations, you have cohorts. And because older Xers are different from younger Xers, older boomers are different from younger boomers. And you also have cohorts of people that are cuspers that straddle from one to the next. And Generation Jones would be that for boomers to Gen X, just like Zennials are from X to Millennial. So I think because when you get down into defining generations and cohorts by, shared characteristics and traits, and they're in the time of their life versus the time in historical cycle, you can't you know, it's hard to get into those, like be specific about years. There's going to be like full Xers, full boomers, and there's going to be people that bridge that gap. Just like I think I wouldn't call, I was born in 77. I wouldn't call myself a core Xer. I would call myself a Zennial inside of a Generation X, because I have some things in common with kids born in the early 80s, more so than I would have with someone born in the mid 60s. So I feel like I'm a cusper as well. So I think the Generation Jones theory has a lot of merit. You had to remember a lot of technology was changing at that time. Televisions were in everybody's households by the 60s. So, you know, in the 50s, not everybody had TV. By the 60s, everybody did. And that changed a lot about childhood and upbringing and things like that. So kids who grew up in the 40s and early 50s were a lot different than kids that were brought up in the late 50s, early 60s. That's my take on Generation Jones. And we're going to talk more about it. I saw a different view. You were talking about the Breakfast Club, the Brat Pack documentary on Hulu. And that's another thing that we're going to talk about this year, because the Brat Pack, they were all born in the early 60s. So they would be considered, according to Strauss and Howe, the oldest Gen Xers. But those movies came out when I was, 7 years old. And so high school movies for me are more like, the 90s, like Clueless and that kind of stuff. And that's more my thing, which is what gives me more in common with millennials. And I know that they saw that the Brat Pack as a negative term, but the older Xers are the ones that got that slacker name and that Brat Pack kind of vibe. That was a very much an older Xer 80s teen type of narrative that I didn't suffer from quite as much, but there was still part of it. Thank you so much for that $10. I appreciate it, True North. Yeah, the Brat Pack just played teens. Yeah, they were all born in the early 60s. I think Judd Nelson actually was born in the late 50s, but most of them were early 60s. And then you had the young ones, which were Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall, which were both born in the late 60s. Okay. Let's watch a little bit more of this interview, and then we'll watch a couple of things that I got saved on my X feed just to have a couple of laughs, and then we'll call it a night. I hope you guys are excited about this. I'm super excited about this. So like I said, starting the 13th of January, every Tuesday night, I've got 5 on it. Members, we're going to do some reading and do some learning. and I'm really excited about it because it's more than just our generation. It's American history, it's pop culture history, it's news events, major events, world events, and all that kind of stuff mixed together. And I think that's going to be really fun to go through.
Generation had a pretty good equivalent of the 60s back in the 1820s and 30s.
Next call is from Oxford, Ohio.
Yes, I had a question for these two gentlemen. I wanted to notice that they've talked a lot about cycles of history in the American context. I wanted to know if they were more familiar with some of political science's work, specifically Medulsky and Thompson, who asserted...
Excellent point. I like that.
Long cycles in history and how they led to war cycles. And secondly, if you're familiar, I'm sure you are, of The Rise and Fall of Great Powers by Kennedy, and if that really fits into what you two gentlemen have discussed in more of a broad world context.
Yeah. Yes, the answer to your first question, Medulsky and Thompson, is absolutely, and you will see them mentioned and discussed in Chapter 2 of our book. Medulsky and Thompson, we think, interestingly, Medulsky not only talks about a 4-part cycle of equivalent length to ours, but actually explicitly links it up to the same kinds of generational changes. And we are, to some extent, we're indebted to some of his insights for helping us focus not just on these 4 turnings within the American context, but in a global, international context.
Let me address your question about the rise and fall of America, because it is through a 4th turning that America can stop the decline. It will bring the whole issue to a head. It will be one giant storm, which could result in a terrible, terrible tragedy, and we can all imagine what that could be. But it also could produce another great triumph, as the American Revolution and World War II certainly produced.
I mean, like, does that not give you chills? we are living in a time right now that is going to be part of the history books for the ages, if they still have books down the line. Chris Baker, author, $5. Thank you. Some Gen Xers had a house with only one television. We remember a truly unwired world. We also saw a rise of kids never sharing a room with a sibling. That's true. That is true. My siblings and I didn't share a room with my brother, and I each had our own room. We were only 18, 20 months apart. But my sister and I, when my sister was first born, we shared a room. We were 10 years apart, so 9 years apart. But then after she turned like 6 months or something, I moved downstairs to the basement and got my own space again. So you're right. We only had one television when I was really little in the living room. That was it. Then we got one little teeny tiny, like 13-inch black and white TV that was like really tiny and had the dial, and the VHF and the UHF channels, and had the little antenna on it. And then my parents got one in their bedroom. But that was, we had one main TV in the house, and always had to be in a place where mom and dad could tell what was being played, what was going on, because they were always on top of what we were watching.
And it is our feeling that the way civilizations ratchet up and become something better is through this cauldron of history that we call the fourth turning. So we would disagree with those who say that the United States of America is inevitably bound for decline. We think it's up to us. But the survival of this nation, we do believe, is going to be very much at stake between the years 2005 and 2025. And we may, at the end of that era, not exist as a nation if we're not careful.
Whoa, hold on. Rewind. What was that? I got to hear that one more time. Sorry.
It will bring the whole issue to a head. It will be one giant storm, which could result in a terrible, terrible tragedy. And we can all imagine what that could be. But it also could produce another great triumph, as the American Revolution and World War II certainly produced. And it is our feeling that the way civilizations ratchet up and become something better is through this cauldron of history that we call the fourth turning. So we would disagree with those who say that the United States of America is inevitably bound for decline. We think it's up to us. But the survival of this nation, we do believe, is going to be very much at stake between the years 2005 and 2025, and we may, at the end of that era, not exist as a nation if we're not careful.
They may have been a little bit off on those years, but not much. Holy crap. Are you excited to read these books, guys? Are you excited to see where our role, our generation, its role is in all of this? Because I sure as hell am. I'm super pumped.
Added point that's very important is that history doesn't move by gradual increments. History has its seasons. Like nature, there has to be a time of death and rebirth. Institutions become sclerotic. Things grow, memories linger. There has to be a time of cleaning out, clearing out, and allowing something new to sprout up. And we've seen that several times in our history. And we forget today, we look around in third turning America, in America the 1990s, we think everything is gridlocked. We have people talk about demosclerosis. Books come out called The End of Everything, The End of Culture, End of Politics, End of, and we see the culture as people using parodies on parodies on parodies. There seems to be a lack of something new. The fourth turning is what allows something new to grow, both in politics, society, and the culture.
Well, speaking of parodies, I have to pause for a minute to talk about another part of your life.
I've been unveiled.
Well, many people who watch C-SPAN are familiar with a group that you helped found called the Capital Steps.
Yes.
All right, now they're getting into their music group that they have. Okay, so what do you guys think? I'm excited about it. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, so get your books. One more time, and I won't mention it again for the rest of the stream. Generations. And then 13th Gen. And then Fourth Turning. There you go. Oh, I'm so glad you guys are excited. Yay. It'll be a good time. think of something different, something new, something that's not just what's your favorite 80s TV show, you know? Because I love that kind of stuff, and I will still be making those videos. Don't get me wrong. You know, I'm still going to be just flooding you with TV shows and commercials from our childhood. But I also wanted to do something like this. So, anyways. All right, Cole. That sounds great. You go check it up. Okay. Let me bring up for those of you that haven't seen my video, what is Generation X? It's complicated. I made it when I first started this channel, and it has some Strauss and Howe, and it also has Douglas Copeland in the video, who is the person that first coined post-boomers Gen X. Yay! Ordered your book. Boy, I need to set up an Amazon associates link. Start selling some books. I'm kidding. I'm so glad you guys are buying the books. I think you're gonna really enjoy it. My favorite 80s TV show. Yeah, get myself a cut. Can I link the books in the video description after the stream is over? I sure can. I will do that for you. Sounds like a plan, Stan. Favorite 80s TV show would be it's a three-way tie. Well, it's a four-way tie. Between I can't just have one. They're my favorite for different reasons. So Little House, The Incredible Hulk, The A-Team, and Growing Pains. Those are my four favorite. Okay. So anyways, I made a video called What is Generation X? It's complicated. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. We'll be watching parts of that on the first night of our book club as well, so you can see a little bit of the origins of us. So the next time you hear somebody say Generation X is only 1965 to 1980, tell them to prove it. Because that's a dumb theory. I don't like it. We're not just 1965 to 1980. Yeah, I will set up what are they called? Affiliate links. I'm gonna have to become an Amazon affiliate associate person and start putting up some links for this kind of stuff. You know, building the brand. I'm just kidding. I just appreciate you guys wanting to hang out with me and go through this. Okay. All right, enough of this. Let's watch a couple of funny things, and then I'm gonna call it a night. I got an early morning tomorrow. Got lots of things to do. Lots of things to get done. So I'm gonna pull up my X feed and see what I got saved for you guys. If I was a bookmark, where would I be? There I am. What do I got? Boop-a-doo. I've saved all kinds of things. Blossom, that's no fun. That's boring. Oh, here's a video from 1989 when Sega Genesis was introduced on a TV show. I love this kind of stuff. Boom.
Check out this one. It's been singing at me since you walked out here. What is the noise? And what's this one called?
Okay, this is the Sega Genesis. Sega is a familiar name. They already have their Sega Master System out. Again, this is their next generation video game machine. It's a 16-bit machine, which is a lot stronger in computing power than the previous machines were. It, too, will be just under $200. Wow. And the games come on cartridges, similar to a Nintendo or the Sega Master System. Right. And it allows you to play, again, arcade quality games in your home. Special components that you would get with this? With the Genesis, you get the Genesis game controller pad. Right. And Altered Beast, a familiar arcade game that has been translated to the Genesis in high quality.
We played that one. That's wild, isn't it? What I was wondering, what are the features of this system? What kind of things will it do?
Well, again, similar to the TurboGrafx, it's a next generation machine in that the graphics are impeccable, almost like a painting, and just like what you'd see in the arcade in your home. And the sound, it contains a lot of digitized sounds.
Did you guys have a Sega Genesis? I never had a Sega. I had an Atari 5200 when I was a kid, and then my brother had an NES. when we were growing up, and I was not into video games at all when I was in high school. And then I got to college and we got a Nintendo 64 and I played GoldenEye till I literally I think I missed like 2 weeks of classes over it. Good God, that game. and then I got a PS2 when I was in college, but that's about the extent of my gaming. Chris Baker, author of $5. Before September 2001, the USA could have been salvaged. There is no way that will happen now. Javier Milei may be big enough to save South America. Well, I hope. I don't know. I think there's still a chance we can be salvaged, Chris. But I agree with you that September 2001 is the date. I mean, that's what I call the before times. You know, if it happened before September 11, 2001, it was the before times. That's when the 90s ended, you know. And so everything after that has been completely changed. But I think we can still be salvaged. It's going to be close, but like we're going through the fourth turning right now. It's not going to all happen in one day, but we're going to see some incredible things in our life. You know, in the next few years, it's going to be nuts. Spicy Pep 1, huzzah! Yay! Thank you for becoming a member.
They take an actual voice and record it and turn it into a computer program, so you hear actual voices on the screen telling you to run this way or grab a power-up or you're safe at home base or something like that.
Now, I was wondering, I read somewhere that you're able to hook this one up to somebody else's, so you could get a couple of people, or how does that work?
Right, there'll be a telegenesis modem. A modem is a connection between two computers over a telephone, and you'll be able to play across town or across the country or across the world
So like
with
Greg
another
and I
player.
could be in each of...
We are in the fourth turning right now. It started with the 2008 financial crisis, and or one could say 9/11, but 2008 financial crisis definitely. We are in the fourth turning is going to last about 20 to 25 years. So we are in the heart of it right now. COVID was part of it. All of that's a part of it. Yep, we are in it. We are deep in it. Explaining a modem is wild, I know.
home, and then we could call each other on the phone and both play at the same time.
By all means.
By all means. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut it right there. Shoulder pads 89, baby. Awesome. I'm so glad. That's amazing. Well, thank you for becoming a member. I appreciate it. It'll be a good time. It will be a good time. Little bit. I just wanted to get into something that a little bit deeper than TV shows and movies, even though, don't get me wrong, again, I freaking love TV shows and movies. But I just wanted to have a bit deeper conversations from time to time. And kind of go through this and acquire some knowledge. Eclectic Dev, $1.99. I have hope as Gen Z is a lot like us. And that's actually part of these generation cycles. Every other generation is like the mirror and in cohorts together. And we'll get into that in the fourth turning. That Gen Z and X we're bros. As are boomers and millennials. They're supposedly mirrors and yeah. So I agree with you 100%. I agree. But we're going to have to teach them all how to read. And maybe that's alpha. But we can't lose the ability to read and critically think and write, We got to really get on that. Okay. What else do I got here? Ooh, here's a Living in the 90s compilation CD from 1995. This will be exciting. 1995 compilation CD, Living in the 90s.
When it comes to the music of the 90s, anything goes.
Music today is everywhere. No need to label it. If it's good, we'll play it.
That's why we got Living in the 90s. 2.5 hours of the coolest songs on 2 CDs.
They actually didn't have a term for Gen Z at that point because millennials were the babies. When they wrote those books in the 90s, millennials were being born. Gen Z hadn't been born yet. But they did say in the book that the generation that came at, well, no, I'm sorry. It must have been in The Fourth Turning is Here, because Howe did write The Fourth Turning is Here. It came out like a year or two ago. And I think maybe it was that book where he said that X and Z were mirrors. All right, I'm going to start this over again. Sorry.
When it comes to the music of the 90s, anything goes.
Music today is everywhere. No need to label it. If it's good, we'll play it.
That's why we got Living in the 90s. 2.5 hours of the coolest songs on 2 CDs and 2 cassettes.
Check it out.
You'll be amazed at who you'll find on Living in the 90s.
They're sex symbols.
What's up, Doc? Carry Rock. Basketball stars. What's up, Doc? Carry Rock. Legendary artists.
Legendary.
Living in the 90s has the songs you know, the songs you love, and the songs you just can't live without.
Can't touch this.
Life is a highway. I wanna ride it all night long. That girl is
My shirt, too sexy for my shirt, so sexy.
There's only one thing left to say about Living in the 90s.
You're unbelievable.
To order, call the number on your screen or send check or money order. 2 CDs, $26.99. 2 cassettes, $21.99. Cash delivery available. Living in the 90s is not sold in stores.
That was amazing in every possible way. Natalie, think about the years you predicted, 2005 to 2025. Why do you think not 2001? You know, again, because there was no like specifics about it. They were saying every 20 to 25 years, usually about 20, because it's an 80-year secular or whatever they call it. But again, it was just a rough prediction of 2005, but it was more like 2008 to 2028, which is wild. And they talk about that in The Fourth Turning is Here as well. But to get as close as they did, I think is pretty impressive. All right.
When it comes to the music of...
I always love this meme. It's so true. All right. What else do I got? I'll give you a couple more and we'll call it a night. I'm getting really tired. It has been a long day. Been working. I've been cleaning stuff up. Moving things around. I'm doing like major spring cleaning in January. Let's see what I got. Something good. I want to get you something good. I don't want to do something boring. Oh, this is kind of fun. How metal music is just based on classical music. Ooh, new members. Tune Earth. Yay! Hold on. Thank you so very much. And we got another one. Gabriel R5464. More applause. Thank you guys so very much. I'm looking forward to hanging out with you on Tuesdays. All right. Classical music is just heavy metal before electricity. You guys ready for this?
Classical music is just heavy metal before electricity.
I love this. it's true. It's like they didn't have any kind of electrical instruments back then. It's crazy. Metal is so similar to classical in so many ways. Oh no! That's not right. I'll get you your applause. I'm so sorry. Thank you for joining. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to skip you. Amazing. I really hope we see some kind of resurgence of music at some point, like computers and what's it called, where they alter their voices. All that stuff is taken over music, and it's no fun. Oh, in this vein of music, here we go.
Hang on. Are you telling me? Yes. That the famous riff for Smoke on the Water is from Beethoven?
It's an interpretation of inversion. You turn it back and play it back and forth. It's actually Beethoven's Fifth. Bum, 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 bum. And I thought, play that backwards. Put something to it, and you've got bum, 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 bum. That's how I came up with it.
Do you ever get sick and tired of playing it?
Absolutely not. It's a great riff. It's a riff that we should all have in our heads. I go to sleep with it at night thinking, oh, I am so happy I wrote bum, bum, bum.
Richie Blackmore is 62.
So yes, that's an inversion of Beethoven's Fifth. Auto-tune, that's what it was. Yeah. Music has been taken over by auto-tune and computers. Heath Caster, $4.99. Oh, bestie. Just sending a little tip gift and wanted to say, oh my God, you play with your shirts like I do when you're basically working. I can't help it. It's how I go. Sitting basically working. Yeah, we've been rocking the dyslexic Bach. That is correct. So I have a hope that we get good music from new artists. I found these kids. If I can find the video. I need to organize these a little bit better. Give me a moment. Uno momento, por favor. That's about all the Spanish I know. I don't even know if that was correct. I'm going to find these kids, dang it. Because I wanted to show you guys. I was like, oh, that's impressive. Well, here's all my Christmas stuff. Son of a nutcracker. Wait just a moment. It's like all this waiting, and it's going to be like a total bust as far as how cool it is. It's like all this build up for just some dumb kids playing a song. But now I want to find it. I'm on a quest. I saved so much stuff. I need to clear this stuff out. All right. Oh, yes. All right. This is kids covering Supertramp. Let me know what you think. This album. I would buy this album. This is so damn impressive. Oh, Lounge Singer, $2. Bill and Ted's Mall Scene request. All right. The Greystones. Yeah, I would buy that album. Bill and Ted mall scene. All right. Share this tab instead. I will do that. A few seconds for copyright purposes. You know how they are. Ooh, Last Dance with Mary Jane. It's a great song. So, were you guys like me and for like 10 years after this movie call all these people by the names from this movie, like Meat Oven and Sigmund Freud and, you know, Noah's Ark, Joan of Arc is Noah's wife and all that stuff? $2 $5. Gen X classical musical comedy crossover. Rob Parabonian, born 1969. Taco Bell rant. All right. We'll get to that here in a second. Thank you for the request. And then after that, I'm going to call it a night, guys. We're getting close to 10 o'clock. You're losing me real quick. I'm so sleepy. And I got an early morning. That'll be fun to watch. I'm looking forward. I totally saw this in the theater. This was one of the earliest movies I saw in the theater with friends. This came out when I was in junior high. And then we rented it all the time. I rented this one a lot. Going back right there, the casual corner. My mom loved to buy her clothes there. What a great scene. Thank you for that request. That was good. Bogus, yeah. Send them to the Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden? Excellent. Execute them. Bogus. Oh, Gen X classical music company. Rob Parabonian, Taco Bell rant. All right. All right, this will be good. Boop, boop, boop.
I'm gonna leave you with this little story. It's about this piece of music. It's a very popular piece of music. I'm sure
I've seen this before, and I love this. This is the great request. Great request. This is good.
It's a very popular piece of music. I'm sure you all know it, but I'll sing the melody right now. Just yeah, Pocket Bell's Canon in D. It's a big hit in the classical world, and I know this because I'm a geek. I know.
Okay, before we get this started, yes, Vizak, Bill and Ted was filmed in 87, released delayed until 89. And you'll know this because they had all the posters for Bill and Ted from 89, all of the marketing materials. Keanu Reeves is wearing a wig because he cut his hair for, I think it was for Parenthood or some other different role. But anyway, so he's wearing a really bad wig in all the Bill and Ted posters and stuff, and you can see it to recreate his hair from 2 years earlier. Okay, now we're going to watch this and laugh and call it a night.
You're thinking, it's like, Rob, you can't be a geek.
We'll Nelson out. Don't worry.
Geek, you play guitar. You're so cool. Okay, you weren't thinking that, but I was. Well, I haven't always been this cool because I haven't always played guitar. I started out on the cello. Yeah, cello is a wonderful, beautiful instrument. It's cool to be an adult that plays a cello. Being a kid that played the cello sucked. Because there's no way to be cool when your instrument is larger than you. When you walk to school with the cello, you're like a wounded gazelle on the Serengeti, man. The bullies just smell you coming from a mile away. Oh, I don't know what that thing is, but I know I'm going to break it. But I put up with all of the abuse because I love the music that we played. I love everything we played in orchestra except this. I hate Pocket Bell's Canon in D with a passion. I hate it so much because the cello part is the worst cello part ever written in the history of cello parts. It's 8 quarter notes that we repeated over and over again. They are as follows. D, A, B, F sharp, G, D, G, A. And that's all we got to play. We repeated those 8 notes 54 times.
Well, yes, but it's awesome because I love Pocket Bell's Canon. So you're wrong, sir. But he does have some good points here, I will say. He's gonna make his case.
I counted because I had nothing else to do. I would sit back and listen to the violins get lovely melodies, the violas would get lovely melodies, the second violins would get lovely melodies, which should just not happen. And the cello, we got stuck with 8 crappy, lousy, stinking notes. And I began to wonder why. Why would Pachelbel do that to us? Such a beautiful instrument. And my theory was he once dated a cellist. And she dissed him really bad. And so for the rest of his life, he came up with the worst cello parts he could ever think of. It wouldn't be so bad if I didn't hear him every day. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Rob, don't listen to classical radio anymore. It doesn't matter. Pachelbel's following me. It sounds paranoid, but he's following you too. You hear him every day. I don't know. I went to my step-nephew-in-law's 8th grade graduation, and their graduation song was a song by Vitamin C. No. As we go on, we'll remember. La, da, 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 da. So on the drive home, I turned on some classic rock, some Aerosmith. There was a time when I was so broken-hearted. La, da, 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 da. So I got home, I thought I'd clear my mind with some folk music. No, listen, children, to my story. It was written long ago. They do Pachelbel just like everybody.
It's true. There's another one that does, there's another video from, I think it was some kind of a stand-up that talks about the 3 notes, the same 3 notes in pop music, same kind of a thing. But it's true.
Somebody does Pachelbel just to torment me. I don't even go to Taco Bell anymore because it sounds too close. I hate Pachelbel with a passion. I don't even know his first name. It's probably Johann. They're all named Johann. When you think about it, he's the original one-hit wonder. He had one hit 300 years ago. It's my cross to bear my entire life. Where are they now? That's what I want to know. Where are you now, Pachelbel? VH1's I Love the 1790s. Where is it? And if he would just stay away from music that I loved, it would be better, but he won't. He is shameless. He will follow me to the ends of the earth. I went to Horde Festival thinking, no, he couldn't possibly follow me to the Horde Festival. But you know who was at the Horde Festival? Blues Traveler. So that means that Pachelbel was also at the Horde Festival. So, suck it in, we're in Berlin or in Tin. Make it a spread move, and then you're in. So I figure I'm going to listen to punk rock for the rest of my life. No dice. Do you have the time to listen to me whine? You know, I'm getting really bored.
Here's the thing, though. Like, you know, creativity isn't just coming up with something crazy original. It is, I don't know, building on other things. Like the same story beats have all been told. All the stories have been told. All the tunes have been written. But it's like putting your own spin on things. And it's putting your own interpretation in a way that only you can see it. And so, you know, I don't hate covers. I don't hate samples. I don't hate this kind of stuff. Like, I think it's really funny, like, that he's doing this and showing this. But I think it's kind of neat how you see different interpretations of kind of the same notes, the same story beats, the same things in different media. And I really, really hope that we see more of that coming out in the coming years. I hope we have some kind of an artistic renaissance. I think it comes from Gen Z, I hope. But Gen X, we can still do it. We can still help.
Because all songs have the same damn chords. Punk music is a joke. It's really just baroque. Am I just paranoid? Na 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 na.
Yeah. I mean, it depends.
I wanna push you around. Well, I will. I wanna put you down. Well, I will. Wow. It's been good living with you. In my machine head, it's better than the rest. My machine head is better than the. See the stone set in her eye. See the thorn twist in her. I'm all out of faith. This is how I feel. I'm calling. I ain't saying lying naked on the floor. He was a boy, she was a girl. Could it be any more obvious? We're not gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna take it. On your mark, get set and go now. Got a dream and we just know now. No woman, no cry. When I find myself in times of trouble, Pachelbel's always following me. I'll see you in hell, Pachelbel. Oh, Pachelbel, I'll see your ass in hell. I'll see you in hell. Pachelbel. Thank you so much, Penn State. Enjoy the rest of the show.
That was good. That was good stuff. Thank you for that. All right, guys. Members, we're going to have a good 2026. It's going to be a good time. For those of you that haven't joined the channel yet, I kept this live stream open the whole time. I was going to close it down, but then I thought, nope, this is your gift from me to you for 2026 to let you know what we're going to be doing on Tuesday nights. I know you want to be a part of it. Those of you that have already joined, thank you so very much. I'm looking forward to having an amazing year conversation about this. This is going to be a good time. Going to learn some things, drop some knowledge, and just have a great time. It's going to be a great year. So thank you all so much for joining me tonight. Thank you for all your super chats, your memberships, your support of this channel. I cannot thank you enough. All right. Yes, order your books. Generations, first one. And we're going to go out tonight on a Nelson power ballad. Ooh, we got one more new member. Yay, Gabriel R. Whoop, whoop, whoop. All right. Going out on a Nelson power ballad tonight. We're going to Nelson out of here with Time Will Tell. Only Time Will Tell. Hold on. Dang it. Nelson, yeah. My mama loved Ricky Nelson too. So sad. And I actually have a video coming up next Friday for the live stream. They're going to tell the story about how they were supposed to be on the plane with their dad. We're going to have a little Nelson video time because I want you guys to hear the story. But yeah, good stuff. I know you're shocked. So good. They totally got screwed. They came out at the wrong time. They needed to come out like 2 or 3 years prior, but they came out in late 1990, and by 1991 they were gone. Nirvana stepped up and was like, yeah. Thank you guys so much. Join me next Friday for my next live stream, which is going to be about James Bond and 80s game show cars. I know it sounds like a weird combination, but my brother's going to be joining me, and those are two of his favorite things, 80s cars and James Bond. So anyways, join me next Friday. I am taking a few days off, so I don't know if I'll have a video out anytime soon, but I won't wait too long, I promise. So be on the lookout for that. Like this, subscribe if you haven't already, join the channel, and I will see you guys next week. Have a great week, your first full week of 2026. Okay, bye-bye.